What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things.
With Shawn and Andrew.
Today has been a day.
It's been a good day.
So I don't know what to expect when we start to dive into this very philosophical episode, but it's going to be a roller coaster.
Tell the people about your PR you hit today. Come on.
Oh, I deadlifted 215 pounds.
You're an absolute animal. An animal, babe.
I don't know on the scale if that's like really good or like solid or, but I was proud of myself. It's a new PR.
I would like to say that I think that's really impressive.
Thank you.
And congratulations. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
It's also, we had a great meeting. We are days away from the launch of Beam Kids,
which we're so excited about and I'm so nervous about. I feel like I'm sharing another child with the world. This has been something we've been working on for a very long time, and I just really want people to like it.
Yeah, you've done a good job.
Thank you.
Today's episode is inspired by my recent studies that I've been doing. For those that don't know, I am currently a dissertation student.
Yep.
I am a doctoral candidate at Liberty University for psychology. I was inspired to look into and study psychology because of the work that we do, these interviews that we do. And I think it's kind of an interesting time to be learning about psychology in this world of AI, where it's like this layer of humanity that we add on top of technology. So all of this combined got me thinking about the psychology of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the psychological effects that are triggered by marriage or that marriage can benefit by and benefit from. So what we have done today is put together 15 different psychological effects that play into marriage that I think are good to have vocabulary around. Maybe you could even use some of them to your advantage, to the benefit of your marriage. And Shawn is pumped about this episode.
I'm so pumped.
Pumped about it.
First, let me just say, one, I'm so excited and so proud of you for diving in to get your doctorate of psychology. Why did you need that? You didn't, but I'm really proud of you. It's actually sparked a lot of great conversations that we've had.
It has.
I will say, in reading through this episode, it sounded so nerdy. And I was like, wow, you're into this. But at the end of the day, when we ended up summarizing a lot of these, it comes up as just like really good lessons for marriage and things that you and I both agree with. So I think it's a great conversation starter.
Well, a couple of things. Shawn and I connect over philosophical conversations.
Yes.
A lot of our conversations have been about the psychology of how people have made these choices, or how they've navigated through this, or mentors that have changed our psychological narratives that we've been telling ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the 1 year I did in college was in psychology.
Yeah, we're both psychology students.
I love it.
We all are. And now with parenting, the psychology of the interaction of a parent-child is interesting. How is this child receiving this? And also, we're in this field where we're writing a book.
Yes.
And I feel like we're amongst all these podcasters and authors that, I don't know, at some point you do it for long enough and you're like, yeah, I guess I'm an expert inadvertently.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to actually do the due diligence of getting this doctorate so that I could feel a little more comfortable about talking about some of these topics like we're about to talk about today. So not that you asked, but that's the background of the psychology interest.
And the overall goal at the end of this is just to gain more information to hopefully make your relationships better.
Yeah, because I know it's made our relationship better. But let's get into it. Let's talk about how psychology can play into everyday married life. It is important to know that psychological principles do play a major role in the dynamics of a marriage, and providing insights, providing these different psychological effects can help couples understand what's happening and maybe even improve their relationships as a result. So this is the goal, as Shawn said, is to create stronger marriages. Do you want to take the first one, or do you want me to?
We're going to have such different perspectives on this. Not perspectives, but like, let me tell you about the first effect, which is called the Benjamin Franklin effect. I just feel like you can summarize all of these after we read them into like just very simple life lessons.
Okay, so the first psychological effect that happens in marriage is called the Benjamin Franklin effect, which says that a person who has performed a favor for someone else is more likely to do another favor for that person than they would be if they had received a favor from that person. So how does this apply in marriage? Doing favors for other people increases the mutual feelings of loyalty and affection. So if I help you out, I am more invested in our relationship than if I didn't help you out. I'm more invested in our relationship than if you help me out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
My takeaway is that by doing more favors for each other, for my wife, you can actually get into the habit of doing this type of beneficial activity more often. I increase my investment in the relationship the more I help you out, which is this beautiful team effect of like, hey, if you're continuously helping me out, then I'm slowly working towards my goal. And if I'm continuously helping you out, I'm helping you with your goals. And we're both pouring into this bucket of relationships.
I'm going to make an argument here. I'm sorry, but that is not what it says.
It is.
No, it does not say it's reciprocated.
No, but
It
that's the
says
best
if
iteration of it.
Yeah, but you said this is a team effect. It is not. This is fully one-sided.
Think about how beautiful it would be if you are practicing the Benjamin Franklin effect and I'm also practicing.
Absolutely, but that's not what it says.
Correct.
This is
You're
very
right.
one-sided. If you are a selfless person acting in a selfless way, you're more likely to do that again.
Yes, that's correct. But in a marriage, there's two people. So I would argue that strong marriages have two people who are selfless. And as a result, they are both improving their relationship. This is like the heart of community, I think. I love the Benjamin Franklin effect. Let's see if we can apply that this week. So I'm gonna see what I can do.
Okay.
To help you out, babe.
I like it.
Reciprocate it.
I'm gonna see what I can do for you.
There we
babe.
go.
Yes.
It is a challenge of who can help the other person more.
I love it.
Second, the reciprocity norm.
See, this is so nerdy.
Send it.
People tend to feel obliged to return favors or kindness.
This plays into the first. This plays into the Benjamin Franklin effect.
They feel obliged?
Yes.
How it applies. In marriage, this can lead to a positive cycle of giving and receiving, strengthening the relationship. When your spouse does something nice for you, thank them and see where you could potentially help out somewhere else.
Do you understand the power of this? No, babe, take a step back and hear what we're saying.
I do, but this seems so unnecessary to make it so philosophical when it's like, be selfless.
I know, but it's helpful to break it down. What does that mean? So, and why would I do that? I'm not saying that there's always some self-benefit to selfless acts.
Yeah.
I do think I like to think altruism exists where you can just help other people out for the benefit of the other person and not expect anything in return. But think about those two hand in hand. If I'm continuously helping you out, I am increasing my investment in the relationship. And I'm also inspiring in you this reciprocity norm where
I feel obliged to return the favor.
In some ways.
Yeah.
The positive cycle of giving and receiving that this could create would be enormous. And did you give it the takeaway and challenge?
I did.
We have a takeaway and challenge with each of these.
I did. Okay. I read that already.
Great. Okay. I'm going to try to potentially help you out somewhere. I'm getting fired up about this.
And I'm going to feel obliged to return the favor.
These are subtle but powerful things. Number 3, the Ikea effect. This principle says that people place a disproportionately high value on products or experiences that they partially created.
Ikea effect? That's a thing?
Yes.
You're paying all this money to get a doctorate so you can learn about the Ikea effect.
There are fancier terms for this, but why not call it the Ikea effect if that's pretty much your whole business model? You go to Ikea, you buy a disassembled piece of furniture, you assemble it, you love that piece of furniture. So
basically, some guy who wrote a psychology book sat down and observed all these people who bought Ikea furniture.
This episode is going better than I expected it to be, actually.
And he was like, you know what? They actually are really bought into that cheap piece of furniture they bought because they built it.
Disproportionate high value on products that they created.
Yeah.
In marriage, that means investing effort into joint activities or shared goals can enhance emotional bonds and satisfaction within the relationship. So apply this in different ways. I'm talking about, for us, one thing has been finances. It used to be I would have this budget that was somewhat stated explicitly, but not really. That was somewhat founded on logic, but not really. And then you would try to operate within whatever those somewhat unspoken expectations were. But the IKEA, when we both create the budget together,
Yeah.
you are more invested in it.
For sure.
This is true.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it the IKEA effect.
What would you call it then? Professor?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're going to call it the IKEA effect. Welcome to psychology, the marriage psychology number 3. The takeaway and challenge for this one is sit down with your partner and do some goal setting for the year. We have a template for that. We've done several episodes already on this. You can see it in the link down below, but see where you can align on shared dreams and goals to work towards.
It's like when you're both more bought in on something, you've invested more time, more effort, more whatever. You're saying you feel more partial to it.
100%. And that is everything. The feeling of being partial to it is like the game of marriage. I'm partial to my spouse. If you are able to do that for 50 years, you've won the game of marriage.
What's just the time effect? Right, the more time you put into something.
We're going to get there. I'm glad you brought that up.
Is there actually one?
Yes, darling. I'm so glad you brought that up.
See,
but
I could be a doctor of psychology.
This is applied to our budgeting. This is also applied to our date night. So when we both collaborate on date night activities or travel and vacation activities, there's just more excitement.
Yeah.
Again, this is like the team aspect of it, where it's like, hey, you have a role. Maybe Shawn likes planning all the logistics of the travel and I like planning all the restaurants or whatever. We're both bought in, as opposed to it being like this autopilot type of thing. It's like, get involved, help create the thing. All the million different aspects that go into marriage, if you co-create them, you're both more bought in.
Yeah.
And the ideas get refined and polished so that it ends up being this idea that has been reached by compromise, that you've both collaborated on, you're both happier about, and now you're both invested more in it. Next, the 4th.
The social exchange theory. I think you should read this one.
So the social exchange theory suggests that human relationships are formed by the use of a subjective cost-benefit analysis and the comparison of alternatives. Okay, so this is a different take than what.
So you're basically saying, when I look at all the men, I'm doing pros and cons, and I'm like, you know what? Overall, you're the best pick.
I think the social exchange theory kicks in during dating and in tough phases of marriage, where you start looking over the fence and seeing if the grass is greener. I've not done this. Some people do this. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. Like, people don't.
You've looked over the fence?
Oh my gosh. Let's continue reading.
Make your fence taller.
By investing in it through the IKEA effect. Thank you so much. So this applies in marriage.
The grass ain't greener, bro.
It's not. When you invest in your own freaking yard. That's what I'm saying. This is my point. So partners tend to seek to balance like the giving and receiving to maximize emotional rewards and minimize costs. So like, this is the more self-seeking of like, how can I benefit from this?
Yeah.
Right? I would like to position this one differently though than how it's maybe written. Meaning, I think that when you have a strong marriage that you're invested in, that you commit to, and your boys invite you golfing, but you say, hey, I'm going to go on date night occasionally with your wife.
Is that what you do?
Then the rewards of that ripple into the social arena.
Yeah.
That's my argument. The takeaway is to have an open conversation with your spouse about how you feel like the balance of giving and receiving in your relationship is, and to make sure that you're both on the same page with this. For instance, does one person feel like they're always giving, or do you feel like you both play equal parts? and giving and receiving? Do you feel like that's balanced out? We have this conversation continuously about all the tasks that are required of us in parenting, homekeeping, business, all the things.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're being drained, at some point that turns into resentment,
Yes.
which then circles back to the first one, where I would say, if it's a competition to be as selfless as possible, that feeling of resentment will not present itself.
When you have two people with the shared goal of being as selfless as possible, then it works.
Yes. You're going to like this one. The fifth is attachment theory. Send it.
This describes the dynamics of long-term relationships between humans. Its most important tenet is that an infant needs to develop a relationship with at least one primary caregiver for social and emotional development.
So this is more of how your operating system is as a married couple. What's Shawn's operating system? What's mine based off how I was raised? I read this book Attached, which is kind of what this is all based off of. But there's 4 different attachment styles
Okay.
based off of your upbringing. And you can change them.
Okay.
So there's secure attachment style. That's what we're all striving to be. This is when you're confident in relationships, you feel like you have self-worth, and you accept support from others. Not
Okay.
in this leech type of parasite sucking it all up, but it's like a teamwork, You play your role, I play mine. The second type of attachment style is anxious attachment style. This is when you're clingy, highly emotional. You need reassurance all the time. I'm not, what? You looking at me?
No, I'm like, is that me? I'm very clingy, emotional. I love reassurance.
Yeah, no, but some of these things, it's when there's a disproportionate need for this.
Okay.
The third is avoidant attachment style. This is when you're distant, unemotional, and you avoid closeness.
Okay.
Lastly, the fourth attachment style is disorganized. It's when you're intense, there's this push-pull, it's unpredictable, a little chaotic. Like you don't know what you're gonna walk into.
Which one? Okay, so let's do a little thing. If we're both working towards secure in our vulnerable states, what do you think each of us resort to?
At our worst, you're saying?
Yeah, because I know exactly what both of us do.
Okay, well, I'm so excited. I would say I'm avoidant.
Yes, and I'm anxious.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really, think about that. You're trying to push towards
I get
clinginess,
more emotional and you get less
and I'm trying to, it's like this never ending.
If only you saw our
chase.
arguments, that's literally it. I get emotional and you get unemotional.
Are you saying you're learning something in this episode as
No,
we're going
not,
through it, Shawn?
no,
Are you kidding
because
me?
I knew this.
Oh
okay.
my gosh. Wow. But now we have terms for it. So in marriage, secure attachment styles can help promote trust and stability, whereas insecure attachments can lead to conflicts. This is what we read about every day in our daily devotional about the beauty of marriage and the way it's constructed, where there's no more difficult relationship to exit than a marriage, which could have the effect of saying, all right, we're stuck together. I better be secure in this, and we better be able to healthily work through this, where I'm not scared to give harsh feedback or meaningful feedback because I'm not scared that me saying this thing could come off wrong and now you're not going to love me anymore because I said this mean thing. It's like there is this insulated relationship, unlike any other relationship in life, where you're able to be secure. And I think that's beautiful. So kudos to marriage. Whoever had that thought of let's make this really difficult marriage to get out of, for the most part, I would say it has benefits. Definitely downsides, but
a challenge for you guys, identify what your personal attachment style is and see how that could be contributing to any healthy or unhealthy patterns. And maybe like we were saying, like if we're both working towards secure, at your worst, what do you fall back to? So you can be aware.
Yeah, it's just learning a little bit more about yourself, a little more self-awareness.
I know this one.
Go for it.
Gottman's 4 horsemen. John Gottman's research on marriage stability identified criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling as the 4 communication styles that can predict the end of a relationship.
So if I'm being critical to
Mhm.
my spouse, it is the first of a breadcrumb trail
Mhm.
that may lead to a separation.
But I do remember within the Gottman's Institute, you try to identify what your fallback is. So like when you get hurt, when you get insecure, which of the 4 horsemen do you go to first as like your first step towards hurting your relationship?
Yeah. Awareness is like the first step, you know?
Mhm.
So avoiding these styles can improve marital satisfaction. The challenge for you all listening is to think about conflicts that you've had in your relationship and see if you or your partner carry any of these out, these unhealthy communications
Which
styles.
we all do.
Yeah.
We all do. But having the realization of like, what do you lean towards? Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, or stonewalling. And knowing like those are the 4 things that pretty much never end well. So yes, we do them, but know that like, oh, you're creeping into territory that isn't good for your relationship's longevity.
I would say, broadly speaking, an antidote for criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling is curiosity.
Yeah.
If you do something I don't like, instead of criticizing, it's more like, tell me about that, Shawn.
Yeah.
Not in a cheeky way. But anyway, ask
Well,
yourself if this is a common pattern and have an open discussion about them with your spouse.
What's your first line that you're going to?
With our relationship, I think it depends on on the relationship too. I would say defensiveness.
Yeah, I would say the same thing for you.
Okay, what would be yours, Shawn?
Criticism.
This is great. We're getting better, huh?
Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's great. Look at this. This is
Look
good.
at this.
Psychological effect number 7 is self-disclosure.
How many are there?
15.
Oh, that's a lot.
This is the idea that sharing personal thoughts and feelings can deepen intimacy in relationships. This feels obvious. But it applies in marriage because sharing with your spouse who you are fully creates the closeness and trust. We have friends who are dating, and they're like,
It was wild.
trying to find the person that they feel comfortable with. It's like that's built over time. So there is a point. I'm not saying just do it recklessly and spontaneously, but there is a point where you plant your flag, and then the process of self-disclosure happens where there's this sharing, there's these favors that are being done, there's this mutual investment in the relationship that then creates the comfort, creates the loyalty in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Challenge for you all. Is there anything you've been wanting to share with your partner that you haven't out of fear of being vulnerable? Being able to share openly your thoughts and feelings can deepen your bond. So share it.
Share it. Demons, celebrations, the whole thing.
I feel like you and I do a good job of that. We've gotten more and more able to share vulnerable things. But like bad dreams that I have that are obviously fake and false, and
You still get mad at me for the bad dreams.
I don't. But I share them.
What was the number 1 rule in our relationship from day 1?
Transparency.
That's right. It's important on so many different fronts, but the creation of closeness, one of the derivative effects of this. Number 8, cognitive dissonance.
Wow.
This is a theory that suggests that we have this inner drive to hold our attitudes and beliefs, all of our attitudes and beliefs, in harmony with each other and avoid disharmony. So you can't be, this says that you can't believe one thing and act against that belief over the long run. You might be able to do it for a short amount of time, but over the long run, you won't be able to. So in marriage, this could lead individuals and partners to change their conflicting attitudes and beliefs to match their actions and relationships. I think this is one. Go ahead.
This is exactly what you and I talked about on our first date with transparency, which was you and I had both come from long-term relationships where in certain aspects we changed ourselves or masked something to become the person that we wanted our significant other at the time to like. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're dating people, change is necessary. Like you're going to evolve over the course of a relationship and change to benefit your marriage and your relationship. But early on in dating, there's this like trend where people will drastically change themselves because they think, oh, this person will like it better and it'll work. But it's exhausting because keeping up the front for a long time doesn't work.
Yeah.
So when we started dating, we're like, you know what? I don't really want to do that again. So I like swear and you swear to be fully true to myself from day one. And if this works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You think that goes against this?
No. It's this semantic, but it's not this disrespect of being fully myself, of trying to apply or overwhelm the relationship with my desires and that quote unquote self. It's not like, this is a weird term, but it's not like it's not be your quote unquote ego self fully.
No.
Rather, it's like, just be honest,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But the challenge for this cognitive dissonance effect is to ask yourself, do you find yourself changing conflicting attitudes with your partner to match your relationship? And has this been helpful to avoid unnecessary conflict between the two of you? I think this is interesting when paired with the next one, which is called the Pygmalion effect. This one is wild. No, this is crazy. As I was writing this on the airplane, which is when I did this, because I was ripping.
Like, what are you doing?
No, I was thinking about this is like amazing. Marriage is just amazing.
We're on a flight and he's typing all of this in a note. And then he's like, here, read this. And he's so excited. And it was literally like 40 pages. You
were just as pumped about it. But the Pygmalion effect describes how people perform better when they're held to higher expectations. So this applies in marriage because I was thinking about this marriage dissonance as opposed to cognitive dissonance, where marriage dissonance has these expectations that each other has for the other person. And when done well, this is what I think people mean when they say, she makes me a better man or she makes me a better person, is because your expectations of who I could be then allow me to walk into those expectations and make that a reality. So within there might be cognitive dissonance within myself, but in marriage, there's this other added layer of, I'm going to call it marriage dissonance. This is not from my textbook. I just am winging it. Where it's like, I currently am not acting this certain way that you expect me to be, as far as being a leader for our family or in business, or my tidiness and self-respect to some degree. See here the interview we did with the home edit. But then to avoid the cognitive dissonance and the marriage dissonance, I then change my actions to match. You like that? That?
I do.
You like this? Okay, we got her smiling, everybody. Okay, yeah, girl.
I am not joking when I say I wear a Skims bra every single day. It is the most flattering, comfortable, lightweight style and goes perfectly under anything. I used to dread getting fitted for bras, trying them all on and then settling for one that wasn't even comfortable. But now that I have found Skims, I don't have this problem anymore. Everybody, unlined demi bra is my go-to choice that you cannot go wrong with. But if you would still like to go for a more braless feel, their Fits Everybody Scoop bralette is really good too. Both are breathable but flattering, and even in those postpartum seasons. Which, if you told me I would ever wear an underwire bra postpartum, I would have laughed. But here I am, because it's seriously that good. Shop Skims' best intimates, including the Fits Everybody collection and more, at skims.com and Skims stores. After you place your order, be sure to let them know I sent you. Select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for your Valentine or for yourself, Skims has just launched their best Valentine's shop ever. Available in sizes for women, men, and kids. How do you say that word?
Pygmalion.
That I love. You and I have talked about this a lot. The study done where kids in a school perform exponentially better at such a faster rate if on day one their teachers say to them, like, I believe in you. I believe you can skip 4 grades by the end of this 1 year.
It's amazing.
They actually can do it because someone has instilled confidence and hope in themselves.
It's amazing. I'm glad I got you smiling. Okay. So the challenge for the Pygmalion effect is ask yourself if you're holding yourself to as high of a standard as your spouse is holding you to. Do you think this high standard that you're being held to is helping you stay on track, who you're called to be, and how you're called to act? There's two responses to high expectations. There's resentment of it, or there's meeting expectations.
Mm-hmm.
If you're resenting the beneficial expectations that your spouse has for you, that's a you problem. I think if your spouse has continued unrealistic expectations that might not be, how do you say it, necessary, that's different. You know what I'm saying?
But who's to say what's unrealistic?
Well, that's the beauty of marriage. It's also, I can't prescribe the solution. 10th, equity theory. This theory focuses on determining whether the distribution of resources is fair to both relational parties. Equity is measured by comparing the ratio of contributions or costs and benefits or rewards for each person. In marriage, perceived inequity can lead to resentment and conflict.
I was about to say,
conflict.
where is this going?
What are you saying?
Marriage should be 50-50. Period.
What do you mean by that? I think it should be 100-100, as they say.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have seen relationships where it's like, oh, I don't work, but the other party does, so I don't get as much say in the relationship, or I don't get as much freedom or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think if you don't have equal respect.
Challenge for you is to have an open dialogue with your partner about responsibilities around the house, with the kids, etc., and share any thoughts or concerns respectfully with your spouse about how things are going. That could be tender. My note for this would be, in Christianity, when you think about striving towards what would Jesus do, it's like this constant humility / respect / sacrifice, and like being willing to suffer for the cause. And it's this continuous thing that is rooted in a faith that the other person will see it and acknowledge it, I think, at some point, or like there's good at the heart of it, is my point. What do you think?
Yes.
What are you thinking?
Nothing.
Equity theory. Number 11, confirmation bias. You got this one.
A tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses. Basically, if you believe your marriage is dying, yep, sure is. Because you're going to search for everything and only focus on the things that reaffirm your belief. So if you think negative, you believe negative, you become negative. Or it could be the opposite.
That's freaking powerful.
You get to choose.
We talk about this all the time.
All the time.
Shawn is simultaneously the most caring, respectful, thoughtful person, while also being someone who sometimes forgets things, sometimes doesn't remember whatever set of preferences I have, or whatever. Like, there are certain things there's both good and bad things that you have. You got to hold those side by side and realize, okay, these are two wolves on my shoulder. Which wolf am I going to feed? That's this old principle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feed the perspective of, wait, she is the most awful person,
You better.
And it's like when someone says red truck, you're going to notice that more. So can you train your mind to think about the red trucks that are your spouse's or partner's favorable traits instead of the things that annoy you? Wow, Shawn is so wonderful because XYZ. We had our counselor tell us that the very things that you fall in love with at the beginning are the things that you end up resenting in marriage years down the road. how does that happen? It's like, well, there's this confirmation bias. This is also like related to community. Do you have yes men around you where like you go with your boys and you essentially start gossiping about whatever. You share things with your community as you should, but then they just say, I can't believe she would do that, as opposed to providing perspective. Takeaway, challenge is don't just seek advice and mentorship from people who will align with your opinion and perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Also realize there's two sides to every story. There's this headwinds, tailwinds fallacy where it's like, oh, anytime I'm doing something good, anytime I'm doing the dishes, I remember all the times I do the dishes. And then all of a sudden that results in I'm the only one that does do the dishes. Shawn never does the dishes.
Is that how you feel?
No, it's not. It's not. But it's like realizing that there's multiple kind of realities. Next, the halo effect.
It's a cognitive bias where the impression we have of someone, typically influenced by our overall impression of them, affects our thoughts about their character. Yeah.
Let me say more. This applies in marriage because one spouse may consistently feel overlooked by the other's negative attributes due to an overall positive impression. The other may overlook the other's negative attributes due to an overall positive impression. Does that make sense?
Which is what we just said.
This is, I think, a mechanism through which you can achieve positive confirmation bias that helps the marriage.
Yeah.
By looking at, do they have all this basket of negative qualities? Yeah, maybe. But all these wonderful qualities overshadow them so much. The challenge is to examine the way you view your spouse. If you think highly about them, you're more likely to treat them accordingly. So I would say meditate, fixate, reflect on the positive traits as much as you can, and then it builds this positive momentum. I was also thinking, another note I had on this was, when you believe that everyone is made in God's image, then we all kind of benefit from the halo effect of like, if that's your starting point for, oh, Shawn's frustrating, but she's made in God's image. Okay, so what can I learn from that? I mean, it goes back to like curiosity too, but it's like, there are beauties about you I don't yet understand or see. It's faith in that kind of, where it's like, okay, I'm just going to stick around a little longer so that I can understand this curious thing about Shawn that currently frustrates me, that I believe I'll love. You're digging this?
Yes.
If you're liking this, you're going to love this next one.
Wow.
Mirror neurons. These neurons in your brain, the neuroscience of it all, activate both when an individual acts and does something themselves, and when they merely observe the same action performed by another. Think about that. This applies in marriage because it can help partners develop empathy and understand each other's emotions and more deeply. And you almost have this compounding experience. So it's like visualization in sports. Why is that important? It activates a mirror neurons. When you're sitting watching tape like we used to for hours in football, you're essentially getting the muscle memory from the mirror neurons. That's how that happens. Where you can go out and wear your body out physically by doing the act. That's one way. It's just to like beat your body to shreds by doing that. A different way, I think it's more popular specifically in athletics, where it's like you do the thing a couple times, you get that muscle memory, but then you reflect by watching tape, and it has the same effect because of mirror neurons.
Interesting.
But the challenge in marriage is to be vulnerable in a way that may encourage your spouse to be vulnerable as well. So it's like, I am learning.
I've got something for you.
Okay, hit me.
Do you believe in mirror neurons?
Yes.
So when you say, don't let me affect your mood or your tone or your day, if you're having like a bad day or whatever, do you believe that? So you're saying the way someone acts, their emotion, their actions actually have an effect on you.
Yes.
Exactly.
This is something that Shawn and I talk about a lot. I'll be a little mopey and then she'll respond in kind. But what I am asking in that moment is for you to bring me back up to here, which is a lot. And I don't necessarily expect that, but like that is the power of mirror neurons. It goes both ways where it's like you can both have this resonating negative effect on each other. You know, you could really bring out the worst of each other in marriage. You sling an insult, I sling an insult back. That's not necessarily the mirror neuron ethos, but like what I'm saying is I ultimately view how you're acting with the kids is kind of how I was viewing this one. And the kids see this from us all the time. They've like morphed into little versions of a blend of us, which is beautiful to see. But like you rub off on each other.
For sure.
Are you rubbing the right things off? You know?
Okay.
We gotta work on how to say that better.
Yeah. Next up, gratitude.
Yes.
Expressing gratitude has been shown to strengthen relationships.
You say that like it's such a small thing.
It's not.
I know. That's why it's on here. Why do you shrug it off?
Because are you paying to learn this?
Tell me how that doesn't radically shape your desire to be gratuitous in our relationship.
I wanted to be gratuitous in our relationship even before I read this.
But
I'm glad you want to be now.
Okay, this applies in marriage because regularly acknowledging and appreciating one spouse can enhance marital satisfaction. No, I know it's freaking obvious. It is worth mentioning.
The challenge is to express gratitude for your spouse.
It doesn't have to be anything overly specific that they did, just an overall gratitude of who they are and how much they mean to you. Shawn.
I'm really glad you learned this in
Shawn,
class.
Look. I know that feels so obvious.
Did you not know this before you learned it in psychology class?
But piece this together with everything else. I think that's what makes it. Did you know everything else that we talked about? No, there's obviously going to be some things that you've heard about or seen a freaking TikTok about, and you're like, oh yeah, I knew that because you saw some random video. But it's shaping the whole picture, the puzzle of it all.
Yes.
And also, in marriage, like this is the whole game. It's like everyone knows how to treat other people with respect, I would argue. Like, generally. But can you do it? Can you do it consistently and frequently every day?
Yeah.
With the 12 hours that we spend together a day. And so, in my mind, having gratitude be on this list is like, yeah. That's going to maybe take that one interaction of 200 that we had in a day and make me grateful in it. Next, hedonic adaptation. This principle suggests that people return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative events of life changes. So in marriage, this means that happiness from big positive changes may diminish over time, so continual effort and appreciation are crucial. Challenge is to try to change your perception rather than your situation. So my note for this one is to push to stay married, essentially, versus divorce. If it's like a personal gripe, it's like the grass is greener now. If you're like in a pinch, it's like, oh man, it would be so easy to like get divorced and not have to deal with this anymore. And you might have a short spike in like positive, what does it say?
Negative.
In happiness, right? Or the feeling of happiness. But over time, you're going to adjust to that. You adapt. You acclimate to wherever you're at. It's almost like a mentor of mine had eye surgery. Uncle Jim.
Yeah.
And it's like, he got surgery, went from seeing from one eye to two eyes. And it was like immediately after, he was so grateful for vision. And then a week later, fast forward, and you take it for granted like you always did. You know what I'm saying? The point is, be content in any situation. You know what I'm saying? Because it really isn't about the outside externalities. It's about how you're responding to them. And that's the important thing. So, what was it? In our devotional, Tim Keller says that married couples who were discontent and considering divorces within 5 years, if they stayed married, reported high levels of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
That's hedonic adaptation. So it's like you're in the valley,
Just
the
stick with
mountains
it.
up ahead.
Yeah.
There are exceptions.
Don't quit.
Last one, babe.
Novelty.
You got it.
Introducing new experiences can boost dopamine levels, which can rekindle feelings of romance. In marriage, trying new activities together can strengthen bonds and keep the relationship exciting, which leads us to say, try something new together for a date night.
Let me tell you how Shawn and I do this. Well, how we used to do it. Try new restaurants on date night. We used to try.
We're kind of dabbling again.
But if it's not a new restaurant, we'll try a new menu item. And if it's not a new menu item, we'll try a new beverage, whatever it is. And if it's not a new beverage, we wear a different outfit. But it really is interesting. For this one, my note is, I think people in dating get so excited at the prospect of different potential candidates where it's like, oh my gosh, I went on a date with this person. And they really were so intellectual. I was like super intellectually engaged with this person. Go on a date with a different person. They're like, oh my gosh, that person was hilarious. I love the humor. They brought out this beautiful humorous side of me. And then they get excited by the novelty of the breadth of options. And in marriage, it's like you choose one of those options and you, in my mind, have this incredibly unmatched ability to explore the novelty of the depth of someone, which you don't get in any other way. So you're still, this idea of novelty still applies, but instead of trying to get different candidates and get that itch scratched like that, you're like, what is it about Shawn that I don't yet know? And finding novelty there. Or what experience have we wanted to do that we have not yet done that might teach me about her or change our relationship? What conversation have we not had? Shawn loved this episode. Hope you did as well.
I think I'm a doctor now.
Because you knew all these?
Yeah. No, because now I know them. You just gave me 3 years of a doctorate.
Did this episode help you at all?
It helped me understand you more and appreciate you more. I love you. And I want to continue doing all of these because I want our marriage to be the best ever for the rest of our life.
Are you emotional right now?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I found this episode so I want to do more episodes like this.
Yes. So do I.
I think it's so fascinating. This is the type of YouTube videos I like watching myself. So maybe people like watching it. But anyway, we hope these principles help highlight the complexity of marriage relationships. And we hope that maybe some of those challenges were tangible takeaways for things that if you're disgruntled in your marriage, maybe you could change something by like gently challenging yourself or the relationship or your spouse in different ways. But maybe applying these psychological insights could improve your health, your happiness. That would be fantastic. Please let us know what you thought about this. We understand that each marriage is different and that it's not a one size fits all and that these principles aren't meant to excuse unhealthy patterns of behavior from either party. So that's kind of the caveat. Bottom line is, marriage is worth fighting for.
It is.
Even when it's hard. And we hope you learned something new today. That's all we got. If you haven't yet and you made it this far, please subscribe to the show, give it a rating, comment on YouTube. We love hearing your feedback, and we'll see you next time. I'm Andrew.
I'm Shawn.